Danny Flexon for Seconds Out here with Tyler Goodjohn. It's been a long time. We've obviously gone back and forth on social media and kept in touch, but it's been a while since we've seen each other around the boxing scene.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess the first question really is, why did you walk away from traditional boxing at the age of what, 26?
Yeah, 26. Yeah. I mean, you know the backstory, don't you? Sort of, slightly. So I had like my last professional glove fight, when I was 26 against the Adam Barker. Well, to be honest, I was sort of like I was fighting, I was training, and I wasn't really getting the buzz for it anymore. I'd had a couple of fights. The fight before that against Johnny Garton, again, was the same. Sort of went through training camp, didn't really get the same I was getting anymore. And then I won that fight, and then after the fight, usually the adrenaline and everything else, and you're on a buzz one because you just won the fight. I didn't get that, and it was sort of like, to me, it was just telling me that maybe the love was falling out of the sport. So sort of like a few offers got made against like big names, a few offers to come in like fighting Ted Cheeseman and stuff like that, and then it just never happened. And do you know what? I'm one of them people who needs like big fights to keep me motivated and keep me, just keep me doing what I'm doing. At the end of the day, I was working and I was training, and you need that motivation that's going to get you out of bed in the morning and get you training. So yeah, the big fights weren't coming through, and then I'd done like a podcast with a thing called Fight Talk, I think, and I said how I made weight for the last fight at 10 stone against John Wayne Hibbert. And then a week later, the board sent me a thing saying that they took my license away. If I wanted to get it back, I had to go in front of them, take a lawyer. And I just rang them up and went, do you know what? I'm retired. I've had enough. It sort of made my decision for me, to be fair. Because like I say, I was sort of like, shall I, shan't I? And then it made the decision for me. So.
Yeah, I recall having like a major disagreement with the guy at Fight Talk because I just felt that as a journalist.
You messaged me, didn't you? And you said, look, be careful what you're putting out there because, and at the time, I mean, if it'd been a year beforehand, I think I probably went, look, do you know what? Fair enough. But I was so, like, I didn't know if I wanted to fight again anyway. And the way I felt, like, even now, where I still feel bitter towards glove boxing. Do you know what I mean? I still feel bitter now. There's a lot of stuff that went on that I'm not happy about and I never will be happy about. So, like, at the time, it was literally, like you say, when you messaged me, I was like, nah, I want people to know my story. Do you know what I mean? So it obviously happened. It wasn't great at the time because I believe at the time I done that podcast was the time that Scott Westgarth died.
Right.
So I would imagine that, look, the board just wanted to make an example of me and say that, we're not tolerating all this stuff with the weight dropping and everything else. So I can sort of see why it happened, but at the same time, for me, like I rung them up a couple of days later, and I was like, "Look, all the fights and that I've done for you guys, all the fight of the nights I was in, and everything else, I just felt like I paid my dues to turn around and say, I wasn't in any way glamorizing the weight cut. I was just saying, look, basically, I lost all this weight, boxed like a heap of shit, lost the fight. It wasn't like, oh, I've done this, and then I went in there and battered the guy. It was
you weren't endorsing it. You weren't kind of glorifying.
No, not at all. It was like, and then when you think about the things that happen now, with all the stuff with Canelo Alvarez, with all that, the meat story stuff and everything else, and that Baby Miller, and you think of all the steroid stories that are coming out, and they're only getting 6-month bans. I was told, look, if I want to get my license back, I have to go in front of the board with a lawyer. And I thought, do you know what? I've paid my dues in this sport. Like, I don't need to be treated like that. Do you know what I mean? So
at that stage, age 26, boxing's done, in your view. What was the plan then?
Well, at the time, because I was training at Peter Sims's gym, like Peter and Tony Sims's gym in Essex. So I was living in Essex at the time. Originally, I'm from Cambridge. So I was obviously, I was living away. Do you know what I mean? So I was living on my own in a flat and everything else. So for me, once I'd obviously had my license and thought about retiring, I just up sticks and come back home to Cambridge and started my own boxing gym, my own boot camp and stuff like that. So as far as I was concerned, for the rest of my life, I was just going to be a gym owner and what I'd learned, just teach back to other people. And then think it was like April. I was just literally watching the BBC News, and BKB come on there. The promoter Jim was talking about it. They were talking about how it's like becoming like a really fast growing sport in the country. And I thought, you know what, this is a bit of me. This is like, I like to have a fight. That's what I was always known for glove boxing. So I rung Jim up. He explained it to me, the situation in April, and then I was fighting at the start of June. BKB. In my head, I was like, yeah, I'm only going to have one. I promised mum and dad I was only going to have one. And then, it just blew up. I was just like, do you know what? This is, I like this a lot. I like this.
What most attracted you to it? What sets it apart from boxing that you like?
I just love the fact that you have to stand and fight. Do you know what I mean? The guys that I struggled with in boxing were the guys, in this boxing is the art of not getting hit. So the guys I struggled with, I always liked being in fight of the night, walking forward, having a terror up. But the guys I struggled with, amateur and pro, were the guys who got on their jab, like Tyler Nurse, people like that. When I fought people like that, got on the jab, used the ring and everything like that. So they're the guys I struggle with. Whereas BKV, the ring's smaller, and it's bare knuckle. You've got to stand and fight at some point, and that's when I feel like I come into my own. Do you know what I mean? So, I love it. I feel like it suits my style a lot more than what boxing did, to be honest.
What about the weight classes? Because they're quite wide, aren't they, compared to traditional boxing?
Yeah, well, the first fight, I weighed in at 11.4, and my opponent coming at 12 stone 1.
Yeah.
And he was a lump. And I was sort of like, I walked into the weigh and I weighed in, right, and then I was like, he weighed in at 12.1. When you're like sort of looking, because obviously I'm used to the whole boxing weigh-in official, and I was looking around at everyone. I was like, there's no one going to say nothing. Like, he's like a stone heavier than me. Like, I thought this was made at a weight. Do you know what I mean? And then obviously it was too late. Like, for me, I'm a fighter. I don't care. Do you know what I mean? So I got in there, got the job done. But yeah, like to be fair, it's been a lot. As it goes on now, like my last 2 fights have been bang on the weight. Obviously my last fight was for a title. That was bang on at 11 stone, the title weight. So, it's a new sport at the end of the day. It is still, it's getting bigger. As far as I'm concerned, I feel like it's going to be another UFC. Do you know what I mean? I feel like we're growing it at the minute. So
your next fight is due to be against Jimmy Sweeney, a weight up for the lightweight title, and he's a 3-weight BKB champion, so he's fought as high as like 14 stone, I think, in the past. He hasn't weighed in at that, but that's been the limit for the fight.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Big weight difference. What's this fight going to be made at, and how do you feel about the size difference?
Well, the fight was made at 11.5. So and again, because it's for a title, he'd have to come down to 11.5. So me personally, I think that benefits me, because if he's got to drain himself to getting down, like from the boxing, from the pro glove game, you drain yourself. Like I was in my last fight, I was a shadow of myself when I got in the ring. So as far as I'm concerned, on the day weighing as well, you end up having to lose lots of weight. You're going to be shot to bits, whereas I'm going to go in at a healthy weight, feeling strong. So if there's one thing I've learned from pro boxing, it was, don't mess around with the weight. Do you know what I mean? Go in at, don't get me wrong. The trouble that pro glove boxing has got is the day before weigh-ins, people are just doing madness. Do you know what I mean? And if you're not doing that, if you're not losing that weight, you could potentially be getting in the ring with someone a stone and a half heavier than you the next day. If you're natural to the weight, you're getting in with guys much, much bigger than you. Like, there are like serious guys, like guys I used to train with, like, you're thinking of like Darren Barker and Ricky Burns and people like that, massive people for the weight. Like, these guys make, like Ricky Burns, 9 stone 9. You're like, how does this guy make 9 stone 9? By the time he gets in the ring, he's probably like 11 stone. Do you know what I mean? It's not. So I knew that when I boxed Ricky Boylan for the English title, I weighed 10 stone when I weighed in on the Friday. The next day, on the day lunchtime, I weighed myself again. I was 11.4, so I put 17 pounds on overnight. Do you know what I mean? So I was a middleweight. I wasn't a lightweight weight. I was a middleweight. So, and if you're not doing that, like I say, potentially you're going up against someone a lot bigger than you. And that is hard. It's tough. But whereas BKB, you're coming in, you're weighing in on the day, so it cuts out. You can't be doing all that madness. So I prefer it that way.
And the Sweeney fight was due to be on the 4th of April, so a few weeks ago. How close were you to the fight when you found out it wasn't going to go ahead because of the pandemic?
I was coming back from Norwich sparring. I've just been sparring over at like Graham Everett's gym and stuff like that, and I've just done 10 threes with 2 pros. I was proper fit. I've been training for like 12 weeks because I half knew the fight was going to happen around about Christmas time. So I thought, do you know what? I'm going to get in. I'm ticking over. I put a proper like 12-week camp in, and then obviously we were on that point where it was like we didn't know if it was going to get called off or not. So I was still training. I went up to Manchester a couple of days before training. Then I went, where did I go? Essex sparring, and then I went to Norwich sparring. I was still, because I just carried on as normal, and then eventually, like obviously got rung up and told, oh look, the show's not going to happen. So everyone was in the same boat, whatever, business or whatever. But it was a big blow because, like I say, I put such a good camp in. I remember saying to the missus, like, all the time, I was like, this camp is going perfect. Like no one goes into a fight 100%. Do you know what I mean? No one. I don't care who you are. But that camp was as close to it. Just because I was up at a little bit of a higher weight, so I could eat a little bit more. Just felt strong, fit. Training was good, but there's nothing, like I say, nothing that anyone can do about it. It's one of the things.
How long was it before the scheduled date when you actually got the final calls and it's not going to happen?
It was like under 2 weeks.
Jesus.
So the trouble is, it's just like what I think the biggest thing that people don't understand is that I run a business alongside. Well, I run 2 businesses alongside the training. I train twice a day. I get up at 4:30 in the morning, go do my boot camp and stuff like that. Then I train again. Then I'm back at work. So like it's a big commitment, and like I say, the financial part of it and everything else. Like I was probably doing £200 a week on training because I was either a CrossFit trainer or a boxing trainer. So it's the financial implications again. It's spread in whatever you do with this lockdown. It's affecting everyone, but it was it was a bit annoying. Like I say, I put that much into it and for it to be called off. But
have you had any sort of indication of when A, BKB will get back on the road and B, when the Sweeney fight might be?
There's still like talk of it, and they're throwing dates out and everything else. But it's like I've literally I've just been speaking to my missus now, and I'm like, I don't think anything's gonna happen this year. Like a sporting events. And for fighters, like I say, to put in a full camp and then it not happen, then put in another full camp and it not happen, it's you can't mentally. More than anything, I think it's it takes its toll. So you put a lot into your training, not just the training itself, the dieting, the early nights, everything, So it's very easy from a promoter to just go, oh no, the show's going to happen in June. Great, yeah, get started and start training, and then the fight gets called off mid-May. You're back to square one again. So I'm just sort of ticking over. I'm doing a little bit of training in that, and then when it actually looks like it's going to happen, that's when I'll turn it up again.
Does the ticket selling side of BKB kind of mean that fighting behind closed doors isn't really an option?
Well, it was an option at one point. They were talking about it, and then I accepted. I said, look, I'm happy to fight behind closed doors because, again, we both put in such big camps. I know he'd been abroad and everything else training, so like we both put in good camps. So we were more than happy than fighting behind closed doors. But obviously, I think it boiled down to the venue itself. The O2 didn't want it to happen and everything else. So we're here now, and like sort of. I don't know. Like I say, like they're chucking dates at me, but I'm not really taking it too seriously, to be honest.
Well, you're still filling your time, so let's talk about that. OnlyFans seems to be a big thing for you now. Yeah. How did it all start? How did it come about? Because it's a platform that's more often associated with women, of course.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there are lots of men on there. How did you get into it?
Like my fiance now, Alessa Savage. She funny. So BKB were being shown on Television X. That's the platform it was being shown on TV. Just over a year ago, and I went to the show just as a fan, just to watch. And Alessa was one of the walk-on girls. And yeah, we just got talking, and then we ended up just not leaving each other alone, basically. Then from there, we spoke about it. Obviously, I've met loads of friends and everything else. Like, for me, like the adult industry isn't what people think it is. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously we spoke loads about it. Like I say, I've been around our friends and everything. It's not how you think it is. Do you know what I mean? So for me and her, like I say, we spoke about it a lot. And we were actually going to start after the Jimmy Sweeney fight properly. And then obviously all this lockdown stuff come about, and we were like, look, you know, we're going into this venture as a couple, doing this, and you know, we're both comfortable with it, and we're both earning good money out of it. So it's like, you know, why not? It's just it's a couple's venture. And at the end of the day, I'm a performer. Like, I'll get in the ring. Like, people have said to me, they're like, I can't believe you're doing it. And you're like, yeah, but you watch me get in the ring with someone and potentially try and kill someone with my bare hands, but you won't. But you can't have porn or the adult stuff. It's like, right, okay. So yeah, for me, I'm a performer. Do you know what I mean? Put me in. I love people watching me. Anything I do, to be it getting in the ring, having a fight, or yeah.
You must be pretty confident, though. I mean, it takes a real level of confidence or a lack of insecurity to put yourself out there like that.
Yeah, and that's come from the fighting, because, you know, let's face it, at the end of the day, you know, this bare knuckle stuff, I could get in, you know, I'm potentially putting myself in a situation where I could get embarrassed for the rest of my life. You know, I've had mates, like my very good friend, one of the BKB fighters, got knocked out in his last fight, and it's a hard pill to swallow. Do you know what I mean? When it's coming, getting shown on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram all the time, a bad knockout, it's a hard thing, isn't it? Like, and mentally as a fighter, you've got to get over that. So to have the confidence, like we put ourselves in that situation anyway. So for me, for someone to turn around and say something to me about a video I'm doing with my girlfriend, really doesn't bother me in the slightest. Do you know what I mean? I get shit every day anyway, so.
Do you kind of enjoy the side of it? Like you said, you're a performer and you like people watching what you do, but when it's that sort of stuff, when it's you doing something that normally would be more intimate with just you and your partner, knowing that thousands of people or whatever it is on that platform are going to be watching you, you know, in the bedroom or wherever, not necessarily in the bedroom. How do you kind of feel about that? Do you relish it? Do you embrace it?
Yeah, we both said we both love it. Like, we in this, you know, it's just each to their own, isn't it? Like, we like that people are watching us. We like the people are like basically, like, you know, worshiping us. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, it's each to their own, isn't it? It's like live and let live. And like, if one of my mates turned around and said they were doing it, I'd be like, fair play to you. In fact, you know, mates are doing it. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, fair play. If you can do it, do it. It's yeah, I don't see it as a major thing. Like, my mum and dad are both comfortable with it. I've spoken to my mum and dad about it and everything else. They both know. So as long as they're all right with it, we're both comfortable with it. I don't see how it's really hurting anyone else. You know what I mean?
How long's it been since you started getting involved yourself?
Literally like 5 weeks.
And give us an idea of the success you've had in that time.
Well, it's literally just like at the minute, because of obviously lockdown, it's like, all right, I've just been reminded I have been shooting stuff on her stuff for like a year, her OnlyFans. I literally only started my OnlyFans probably about 5 weeks ago, but I've obviously been doing bits for her one. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I've started my own one. It's going really well. And obviously this lockdown, for it to be going well in lockdown, means it's going to go really well when it's not. I've had the amount of people who've been messaging me from like LA, like in places like that, wanting to work with us and stuff like that. So obviously when we can travel again, it's, you know, fingers crossed, it's going to really take off. So yeah, we're just having a go. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm one of them people. I'm 28. I've had a bit of a wild life. I just like trying things. You know what I mean? It's just, you know, we're out to have a good time and a good life. And if I can turn around and say when I'm like 60, 70 and go, I was a pro boxer, bare knuckle boxer, porn star, I don't know. It's I've done some things in my life and I wasn't scared to do it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, in a sense, you're kind of living the dream because you're doing things that perhaps you do for free. So having
Yeah,
wild sex with a girl you're
yeah,
madly in love with,
yeah, yeah,
you're
yeah.
bare knuckle fighting, which maybe, you'd get into scraps and stuff anyway, and you enjoy a
Yeah,
fight. So you're
yeah,
doing things that you'd probably do for free and
yeah.
getting well paid for it.
I don't know. Just like I think I've obviously had a lot of judgmental people saying their bit and everything else, but for me, like the way you just put it, it's just jealousy. Do you know what I mean? We can make money potentially doing what we enjoy. Well, I'd probably be mad at the next person as well. Do you know what I mean? If they're making money doing exactly what they want to do, I'd probably be. So yeah, I get a lot of day in day out. I get a lot of shit off people, but
Do you see the funny side of it though, particularly on social media, and that a lot of people, men
yeah,
especially, who followed you since your boxing days, have just maybe
yeah,
not seen your tweets for the last few months, and suddenly they're faced with a
yeah,
raft of penises. Well, not a raft of
yeah.
penises; it's all your penis, but
yeah,
your penis many, many times on their
yeah,
timeline.
yeah. Do you know what? I'm just like the good thing with me is I can have a laugh at myself. I can have a real laugh at myself. And yeah, that's the great thing about me. Like I'll be the first person, take the mick out of myself. So yeah, and if you can do that, it sort of nullifies people being and I'll be like, I will have a laugh at them. I'll be like, yeah, no, to be fair, I'm sorry about that. You have seen a fair bit of my cock lately. Sorry. Do you know what I mean? I'll stick a video of me out chinning someone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can have a laugh, and that's what it's all about. And yeah, as long as you can do that, don't get overawed by the situation. Nobody's winding me up and that, because I can laugh at myself. I don't care. Like I'm having fun. So yeah, that's all good.
You're currently, obviously, as you alluded to, getting a job done on 3 separate fronts at the moment. It seems to be having the time of your life doing so. What does the
Yeah.
future hold? Will you continue to do all 3 separate things?
Yeah. So I obviously still have my gym, which is something that I really love doing. Teaching boxing and fitness and stuff. I love doing that. I get a lot out of that. And then obviously, yeah, like with this front venture that me and my missus is going to do, something that as a couple we can do together and hopefully make it successful. And with the fighting, there's only really one fight in particular that I'm really interested in at the minute, and it's Jason Knight from America. That's the fight. He wants it. We've spoke to each other on interviews. He wants it. I want it. The trouble is, BKB and BKFC, the American promotion, don't want to work together.
Right.
Which of course is that's how boxing is. Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, yeah, it's how it is. Like when people ask me, it should be easy to make, and I'm like, look, this is how it is. Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, Joshua, Tyson Fury. It should be made, but there's a lot more to it than that. So yeah, that's the fight I want. We've both accepted it. We've both said that's the fight we want. So hopefully, amongst all this lockdown and that, things can get sort of sorted out. And yeah, that's for me. That's the fight that's going to make Bareknuckle more mainstream, because you've got a UK guy versus a US guy. He's massive in the US at like Bareknuckle front. He knocked out Artem Lobov, who beat Paulie Malignaggi and all that. And he's known off the UFC, and arguably UFC is bigger than boxing in America right now. So if you're a UFC fighter, you're a name. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that's the fight I want. And to be honest, for me, it's a fight that it won't go the distance. I'll beat him well inside the distance. His boxing, he's tough. Don't get me wrong. Like I watched his fight against Lobov the other day, and at one point he's spitting his teeth out, and the commentator's like, "Oh my god, Jason Knight's spitting his teeth out." I mean, his nails. The guy's so hard, but technically, from a skill point of view, he's not on my level. Do you know what I mean? He's that's the thing with BKB. Like BKB, you're getting a lot of boxers who are saying, "Oh, I'd be good at BKB." No, you wouldn't. Not necessarily. For me, it's mentality. Obviously, if you've got the boxing skill set to go with it, great. But like when I first got in there, I boxed some guy who was like 2-0, and he was just an absolute slugger, and he chucked the kitchen sink at me, and I had to resort to I went back to the corner, and my trainer was like, "Look, you can't stand and fight this guy. You cannot stand and fight this guy, because he will get you out of there." Do you know what I mean? And that's when I stuck to my boxing, stuck to the game plan, and just made it easy for myself. But yeah, it's definitely down to mentality. It's about your hands as well. Like my last fight, I come back in the first round, and my left hand was so swollen. And to have another 6 rounds of using that same hand, it was so swollen. I just couldn't even. It was like a balloon. And then at the end of it, the commentators on the thing were like, "It actually looks like he's got boxing gloves on. His hands are that swollen. Wow. It looks like he's got gloves on." So again, it's mentality. Like, are you going to get through them next 6 rounds with hands that you can hardly like tap with? So yeah, but I love all that. I like being challenged. I like mentally being challenged. And yeah, it's a mental challenge for sure.
Just before we let you go, it's been great, educational for me as well. Just tell everyone out there how they can find you on all the different social media platforms.
Well, you can find me on Instagram, which is probably the safest place right now, which is under El Tornado Tyler. Or if you're feeling brave and you want to go on my Twitter, it's at Tornado Tyler. You might see more than me than you bargained for. I've got, you know what's funny? I've got all my boot camp and all my training people. They've gone on Twitter now, and they're all messaging me. Like, I've got like middle-aged women like messaging me like, "Oh, I don't know about my Twitter." I'm like, "Yeah, please don't go on my Twitter. It's
convert them to your OnlyFans."
Yes, it's right now. Yeah, no, everyone's cool. Everyone who knows me knows I'm a bit out there anyway. At the end of the day, I'm a bare knuckle boxer. Like, you know, like I said earlier, like I personally don't think me moving into the adult industry is that much of a massive thing, because, like I say, you're really and truly bare knuckle boxing for me is almost like modern day gladiator stuff, like Colosseum stuff. You know what I mean? You're happy to go watch me go in there and try and break someone. So happy to watch me not break someone. Well, yeah.
Does your missus want to say hello before we go, or is she all good?
Do you want to say hello, babe? Do you want to say hello?
I look like a foot.
She said she looks like a foot.
We only got up like an hour.
Yeah, we literally only got up like an hour ago.
I look like foot.
Hi, Alessa. just been talking about your heroic man here and how he's making money on 3 different fronts.
He's not doing bad, is he?
No, he's doing very well. I'm sure you've had something to do with that.
Entrepreneur, she's just called me.
Yeah, she's obviously been a good influence on you.
Yeah, do you know what? Like with her as well. Like we just met. Like I said, we met last year. I've always been a really out there character, and I think people have sort of found it not hard. Like, cause I'm not a horrible person, but found it hard to be on my level a little bit, because I am wild. Do you know what I mean? I do mad stuff, and then I met her, and it's like, oh my god, I've just met the female version of me, and then things have just gone through the roof now. Like, it's just, that's why I don't think people are that shocked by anything we do now, because they're like, to be fair, I was half expecting it a little bit, because they're both a bit lunatic. Do you know what I mean?
Am I a vampire?
Are you a vampire?
I couldn't see myself in the thing.
Are you a vampire?
Reflection for a second.
Go and get a steak out. Wait to find out.
So what's going? Are you still at boxing? Are you still doing bits for Boxing News then?
No, this is for Seconds Out. And no, I left Boxing News about 3 years ago now.
Oh, 3 years ago. Oh, really? It was a long time ago then.
Yeah.
So what was your opinion like when all that happened of me getting banned and that? Don't worry about it. What, like, your opinion on like when I got banned, didn't I, obviously, for saying that? Because obviously you were working for Boxing News then.
Yes.
It must have been. Was it spoke about, or
not loads, but yeah, a bit. And obviously, my main issue at the time was with the writer of the piece, because I just thought, if it was me and you'd have done the interview with me, I'd have probably cut that bit out. Because I would have thought, even if you said, I really want it in, I'd still have cut it out. Because I just knew what was going to happen. Because I think it wasn't that long after that, there was a thing with Paul Butler, where he'd been quoted by someone as saying he'd lost weight in a sauna or something like that. Right. And there was the Lee Purdy thing as well, that Purdy said he spent all day with him in the sauna. And it was not long after those two stories, and the board were kind of cracking down on it and their image and stuff. And when I read it, I just thought, God, this is going to get him in so much trouble. But I think looking back on it now, you kind of were looking for a way out, maybe anyway.
Oh, well, do you know what? It really does look like that way, and like and how like I can remember how I was feeling at the time. I was so blasé about it because even they were like, "Oh, like and I was like, "Oh, go on," like because for me, it's like an old war story. Do you know what I mean? It's like I'm just like I say, I wasn't in any way trying to glamorize it. I was just trying to go, look, do you know what? This is the mistake I made. I wish I'd moved up in weight years ago.
Still
do you know what I mean?
now, and I imagine a lot more
of
people
course,
did it then. But it's just like you said, they made an example of you, but I think it was made easier by the fact that it was quoted publicly. And I think
Well, they
because you were ready to say goodbye anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's what
when
I
they
realised at the time, and maybe I wouldn't have messaged you and spoken to the guy who wrote it, because I think at the time I didn't realise that you were kind of looking to move on anyway.
Yeah, I was just sort of like, for me, like I say, I'm still bitter about the way I was treated in pro glove boxing. Not just that, a lot of other things, and I think I was just bitter at the time, and I felt like actually people should be treated better in boxing. Do you know what I mean? It was just, like I say, there's one thing I want to write a book, because there's a lot of things that, a lot of stories that people will be amazed by, like with the boxing. Like a couple of things I was treated really badly, like on big shows as well. And that's what I feel. Yeah, I know, that's the thing. I'd love to be able to say it, because at the end of the day, if I come out of it and a couple of boxers are treated better out of it, I've done my job, innit? Do you know what I mean? It's like at the time of the really bad stuff, I was like 22 and I was a kid. Like, at the time, I probably thought I was grown up and I could take it and everything else. But I was 22. In hindsight, now, I was a kid. So yeah, and I can still imagine it, all that kind of stuff going on a lot like now. Do you know what I mean?
So with that in mind, then, what's your biggest or best piece of advice for a young boxer now?
Do you know what? I just have something to fall back on. Do you know what? It's funny because I got told this loads when I was like 18. Loads, like it literally ringing in my head. Like, have something to fall back on. I didn't. I went, do you know what? I'm going to give this everything. I moved up to Essex, lived on my own. I was like, I lived in people's garages. I was like, I was literally living in a different house every day. Do you know what I mean? And stuff like that. So, and like I said, I didn't have anything to fall back on. And then at the age of 23 was the first time I was going to retire. And I moved back home and started my gym. And I was like, geez, like, I haven't got a job. I haven't got any money. I haven't got anything. I've just been a boxer. I've got nothing. I'm 23. I've got nothing. And luckily, like, I started the gym and went out and done that. But it was a lonely feeling at 23 to be like, I've got nothing. Do you know what I mean? I had a kid and stuff like that. So I was like, shit, like, so it would just be that. It'd go in with your eyes wide open, have something to fall back on. Just go in with your eyes wide open, because boxing, let's face it, professional boxing is a business, and it don't matter whatever way you look at it, it's a business. You're going to be exploited. People are trying to make, like, people at the end of the day who are cleverer than you are going to try and make money out of you, and they're going to make money out of you. Even though now I run my own gym business on a whole level, I'm a bit more experienced now, but like that whole business side of things, that's why you need managers and everything else, but you need a manager who's going to look after you and looking out for your best interest, not out to make a few quid. But yeah, it basically sounds like, do you know, I haven't watched any professional glove boxing I can't even remember the last fight I watched, which is a real shame, because at one point there wouldn't have been a fight in the world that happened without me knowing about it. Do you know what I mean? I literally would have watched or read about it or whatever. Whereas now I can't even tell you who the British champion is at whatever weight right now. Do you know what I mean? And it is a shame, but it makes you feel that way, doesn't it?
Well, you're on top of the world now, so everything that's happened before, good and bad, has led you to where you are, and you're doing really well.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Everything happens for a reason. This is, and that whole interview thing pushed me down the avenue of doing BKB and things like that. So, we'll see where we're at in another 10 years.
I think a lot of people have kind of looked at your feed, seen the direction you're going in, maybe were a bit concerned, worried you got off the rails, whatever. But obviously, talking to you now, it's quite clear you're in your right mind as well as you will ever be.
No, I've got a total grip
on.
Content. Yeah, I've got a total grip on my life, which, to be honest, when I was boxing, I didn't have really. I was worrying about money all the time. I was worrying about fights, and I was worrying about this and that. Whereas now, look, the BKB, I love it. It's not my be and end all, mate. I do it because I enjoy it and it's fun. I've got other things to fall back on. I've got the gym. I've got what we're doing. I've got, I've got ways of making income. So there's not so much stress. You're not like before. I remember taking the Tyrone Nurse fight in like my 10th fight. It'd been like mandatory for the English title for like a year and a half. No one wanted to fight him. And he had about 31-29, and I needed the big fights. So I took a lot of fights early on in my career that I didn't really need to take, but it was the opportunity. Do you know what I mean? And I needed the money and everything else. So, like I say, if I'd had my time again, I probably would have been a lot more clever in what I'd done, perhaps. But yeah, it's led me to where I am now.
Boxing, and you wouldn't be where you are now.
No, that's it. You've got to say everything happens for a reason, for sure. It definitely feels like that. Like even down to my missus being one of the walk-on girls for Television X at BKB. Like she only done it that one time when we met. So it's like everything happens for a reason, So yeah, see what happens next.
Yeah, well, I look forward to watching with interest. Maybe not on Twitter so much, but definitely.
Nah, yeah, Swerve the Twitter. I do sometimes put some boxing stuff on there.
It's not boxing or your penis. There are loads of other things you could put up. It's not just one or the other.
Yeah. No, it's true. At the minute, I'm just a bit like, there's no in between.
Yeah.
Actually, I put up a video of me going to Tesco's in a multicoloured Versace dressing gown.
I saw that. I thought it was Lloyd Hunnigan at first.
That's a blunder. Yeah, we just, like I say, we're just having fun, especially in this time. Like I think you've got to try and make light of the situation, because you'll go mental, won't you? Like if not, everyone's locked inside. I just went, do you know what? I'm just going to bang this on and go to Tesco's. Hopefully, it'll just light people's lives up a little bit, give them a bit of a giggle. And that's it. That's what it is. She's like that as well. She's banging on her red hair. And we just go. I said we look like supervillains in Tesco. But yeah, it's just fun, isn't it?
Brilliant. Well, really appreciate your time. It's been great to catch up.
It's been cool. It's been great. Cheers, Dan.
Look forward to seeing you in person sometime soon.
Yeah, definitely, mate. You'll have to come along to one of the shows and like come in the back with me and just like get a proper feel of it. Do you know what I mean? Because it is all run proper professionally. Like I still get people now, like when I say I'm a bare knuckle fighter, they're like, "What, in a field?" And I'm like, "That's at the O2." Like honestly, the amount of people who say to me, "What, in like fields, like with hay bales and that?" I'm like, no, like at the O2 and that, and they're like, "Wow!" And then they come. Like the biggest thing for me, right? I had a massive fan base as a pro glove fighter, right? And all my fans have obviously now followed me over to the BKB. Yeah. And bearing in mind, I was like the chief support to like Anthony Joshua, like Kevin Mitchell and all that on some massive shows. And now they're saying that these BKB shows are the best shows they've ever been to, that I've ever been on. And for them to say that when they've been on these other, come and watch me on them other shows, is a big thing, So yeah, I think it's going to take off massively, because let's face it, your casual punter boxing fan wants to see someone get knocked out and they want to see blood, and it's very rare that a fight really goes the distance in BKB. From my point of view, as a like a boxing fan, like I love watching Mayweather. Do you know what I mean? Because I think his skills are amazing. But casual boxing fan thinks it's boring. Do you know what I mean? And they're booing and they want to see someone get knocked out. Well, BKB's for you. It's not necessarily, to watch Mayweather. Do you know what I mean? So, and that's why UFC is where it is now, isn't it? Because it's just brutal, isn't it? It's just blood and people, especially like without stereotyping, like the American crowd. That's what they want. They want that blood. They want knockouts. They want excitement. Do you know what I mean? Whereas us, like, I like going to your call and watching a Southern Area title fight where they've got heart and stuff. That's for me when I think boxing's at its best. Your call, British title fight, English title fight, Southern Area title fight. When you're at that level where who's going to go up and down? Do you know what I mean? And they're literally that's when you see fight of the year. Like, but people don't see that. Do you know what I mean? Like me, when I fought Johnny Garton for the English title, we knocked bells out of each other for 10. But yeah, the people who see that were the only ones who were in the York Hall. It wasn't on TV. It wasn't online. Nobody else would have even known that fight was happening. But everyone there was like, that was fight of the year. Do you know what I mean? That was mental. So yeah, you've for me the best fights are them one like Southern areas and things like that. So
brilliant. Well, best of luck going forward. You don't need it really, do you? You're doing better than all of us, but still, I hope it continues.
Yeah.
And, yeah, appreciate doing the interview. Stay safe,
Nah,
obviously. You have to say that, don't you? And
yeah.
see you soon.
Yeah, take care of yourself, mate.
Take care, mate.